In this video, we're going to be putting the Titleist GT Driver up against a 20-year-old Titleist driver to see how much of a difference there really is. Good ball. Hold it. Ah! That's going to be so close. So this driver is the Titleist GT3. This is what I've been fitted for. It's what I have in the bag. This is my favourite driver. This is the driver that I like. Whereas what we have here, this is an ancient relic. This is our cameraman Jamie's best ever club, supposedly. This is a 20-year-old driver, came out when I was 6 years old, but supposedly it's unbeatable. So today we're at Manchester Golf Club. We're going to put this driver up against my Titleist GT to see if it can perform just as well. First off, in terms of looks, there's obviously a very different design pattern in terms of the head cover. It's very well loved over the years, as we can see. There's also quite a lot of tee marks right from the toe end of the club, so we can see what kind of shots Jamie used to be hitting with it. But overall, very, very different to what we are looking at in the current 2024 driver. With this one, we've got alignment aid right at the top here, helping you square the face up. Very more in your face than you would find with the GT. And overall, it does just look that little bit more dated. Obviously, this driver is very different to the GT, especially when we look in terms of technology. This driver is 20 years old, so we're not seeing the changeable weights, the removable hosel. This is very much just as it comes, and there isn't really that amount of adjustability there. Whereas with the GT, for me, I've been able to set that up with my exact specs to really tune in to my shot shape. So in this driver, we've got a Pro Force V2 shaft. Now, I've been told that this is very much the shaft. However, obviously, I was 6 years old, so I don't remember this, but let me know down in the comments if you can remember this shaft. Now, obviously with the shafts, I know people are going to point out these are not the same shafts, they're not exactly comparable. We cannot put this shaft into this club because it's not removable, it's not adjustable. So there will be some differences there, but we'll come on to that when we look at some of the data behind these. So at address, just looking at some initial differences here. First of all, I did mention earlier with the older driver, we've got that really big alignment aid. You've still got that alignment aid on the GT, it's just a little bit smaller and a bit cleaner. There's a big difference on the club face. I can't say I'm a fan of this on the older driver because on the face it is silver, it is very bright and it's hard to actually see those alignment sort of aids on the face of the club, whereas on the GT, excuse my slight mishit pattern with the T-pegs, but it's a lot clearer where the centre of the club face is and it just blends in a little bit nicer at address in my opinion. Looking down at these two at address, even though obviously they are 20 years apart, there is some similarities in the actual shape of the head. They have that very classic Titleist look to them that clearly hasn't changed that much over time. However, the older driver is just that little bit smaller as we've changed into the more forgiving drivers with the different shapes and sizes there. What a day here at Manchester Golf Club. We've got an incredible looking hole here with the second hole. Definitely need to get a good drive away though. I'm going to ease myself in using my own GT driver first before we have a go with the 905. Okay, that's why it's in the bag. That's why it's my driver. I'll be impressed if the 905 can beat that, but we'll find out. Going in with the 905 now. Definitely looks different. You can definitely tell it's a little bit outdated, but we're just gonna try it, put a good swing on it, see if we can get it down there with the GT. So GT down the middle of the fairway, 905 has gone in the left fairway bunker. Main difference between the two at the minute is actually just the sound. This one is very tinny, very loud, whereas for me the sound of the GT I think is one of the best sounding drivers. So very different there, but not the worst start for the 905. So from the tee, they felt like two quite different shots, but actually as I've got down here you can see that the results are pretty similar. So the 905 ended up in the bunker. I guess you could even say that it might have outrolled the GT had it not reached the bunker. The GT is just nicely up there in the middle of the fairway. So realistically, when you're looking at the distance between them, it's not that big a difference. So I think we're going to have to hit a few more shots to actually see if there is that much of a mismatch between them. they've actually gone about the same distance, haven't they? I actually think that that last shot has gone the same distance as one of the GT shots. We'll go down there and we'll find out, but if it has, I'll be very, very impressed. Couple things to mention with the results from these tee shots. So this was one from the GT that I actually misstriked quite a bit. However, you can see that my really good strike in the center with the GT, that third ball there, is basically the same distance. So there's very little variation in the distance when you hit a good shot versus a bad shot. Whereas the really good shot that I hit with the 905, that one's just come ever so slightly shorter to both the GTs, but still pretty similar. But that really was probably the best strike I could possibly get with the 905. Then when you look at the misstrike with the 905, that is right down there on the left hand side. It has also come up a little bit shorter to each of these three. So you're starting to see those differences there that really comes in when you look at the misstruck shots with that 20-year-old driver. We have 226 yards to the pin. This is a par 3. It's feeling very par 4-ish because I am going to have to take my driver here. But I have been told and I have been reassured that if you've ever played here, you probably have had to consider using a driver from this tee before. So we're going to put them both to the test and see if we can hit the green on this par 3. Starting off with the GT here. This could be quite a big moment. We'll hopefully get this one up onto the green. Not on the green, but I think it is the right club. We'll hit a couple more, see if I can get one on that green. Okay, green side bunker, but we are getting closer to the pin. This next one, this is gonna hit the green. Oh, and she's overcompensated. That is left green side bunker. Oh no, it's flown it, it's flown it. Not super successful with the GT. Let's see, maybe the 905. Maybe the 905 could be the club to do it here. Oh, turn in. Very consistently up that right-hand side. No, not quite, not quite. Right, come on. That is a little bit left as well. We've got one ball left. And it's going to have to be a good one. Last ball, one last ball to get onto the green here. Come on, 905. Hold it. That's going to be so close. That's like a yard off the green, but the 905 actually got closer than any of the GTs there. So maybe that's the winner. So after the 905 actually won that test on that par 3, we're going to take a deeper dive into some of the data and have a look at some of the differences with the numbers. We tested both these drivers out over at Hooked using TrackMan data, so we've got all the stats here and I'm going to run you guys through. So first of all, there was more of a difference between the 905 and the GT indoors on TrackMan. So starting off with the carry distances, we had over 10 yards of difference with the carry. So the GT, my average was 216 compared to 205 with the 905. But with the total distances, there wasn't that much of a difference, with the GT coming in at 238 and the 905 coming in at 231. So still a drop off with the 905, but not quite as severe as when we look at the carry. As expected, I would say the ball speed for the GT was quite a bit higher than the 905, 134 with the GT, which is what I would look for, what I would expect. Coming slightly lower with the 905 at 131. And actually, the spin rates surprisingly were very similar. The 905 span 150 RPM less than the GT. The interesting thing from all of this came from when you looked at the best and the worst of the shots and took the comparison there. So with the 905, my best shot had a carry distance of 216, which was the same as the average of the GT, and my total was 240 yards, which is actually slightly more than the average for the GT. So that shows you when you're hitting a really good shot with that older driver, you could still see the exact same results as you would get on average with the GT and the newer technology. And then if you take my worst shots with the GT, they were actually about the same as my average shots with the 905. Very big difference, however, was when we look at how offline my bad shots were to the left. was coming in at 50 feet with the GT, but all the way up to 90 feet left with the 905. And a reason for that could be because I know that I strike the ball out the toe the majority of the time. So my GT driver is set up with the weight in the toe to counteract that and just make me hit it a little bit more straighter on average. Obviously, we don't have that technology in the 905. So when I hit it off the toe, you can see it. We saw that out on the golf course. We're seeing it here with the stats as well. So one of the main things that I think I've learned from this is that you do actually kind of need to take your clubs out onto the golf course to get a full decision before you commit to them. This can be quite hard to do. A lot of us can only test out golf clubs on the range at a fitting, but if you get the chance to actually take these out onto the golf course, I would really highly recommend doing that, because the 905 performed really well out there and it really wasn't necessarily what I was expecting it to do. So in conclusion, was Jamie right about the 905 being incredible and unbeatable? Yes, potentially Jamie was a lot more right than I thought he was going to be. I think that just really shows that Titleist has always made good clubs. The main difference definitely comes in from those miss-hit shots. When I miss-strike something with the GT, I'm still getting all the distance that I would get from a centre strike, and it's really not going that far offline. But we did see that creeping in with the 905. You don't have the forgiveness there if you hit it from the heel or the toe, and you're going to lose out on distance as well. So in 20 years, that is the difference in the technology, is just helping you out on the bad shots. So not necessarily what I was expecting to be the outcome from this test. Interested to know what you guys think. Let me know if you like this style of video, and if there's a club at home that you guys truly think is unbeatable, like the 905, let us know down in the comments. Thanks for watching, and subscribe for more.